So many men want to feel powerful and yet haven't been given good role modeling or examples of how to do that authentically. So in this video, we're going to dive into what are the five main ways that we distort our power, and obviously something we can do about each one so that you can start embodying your authentic power today. So the first thing we want to get across is that power is not force, it's coherence, it's presence, it's being in your embodied center. I like to say that absolute power demands of others absolutely nothing. And when you're in that place, it is absolutely magnetic. So the irony is when you've got your power embodied and centered, there's less you have to do to be powerful. And as a byproduct, you are more powerful. And when we're trying to be powerful or we distort it in one of the five ways we're going to go through in this video, we're less powerful. Okay. And power isn't just about what we can do and create, it's also about how others perceive us and what others can sense that we are capable of. So, power is not what we exert, it's what we can hold in our center without being distorted or contorted by the thoughts and feelings and views and opinions of others, or maybe even our own self doubts or perceived limitations. It's, like I said, embodied, centered, calm, poised, ready, and available. And we're going to talk to you about how we can get you there. So, a lot of people, when they think about power, they think about three things typically in men when we work with them. And one is that power is about force, like power means I can force something to happen. Power is about asserting control over others or dominating a situation. But none of these things are true power. So true power is about, can I be coherent? Can I be in my center? Can I be calm, poised, ready, embodied? And not contract when I'm under pressure or I'm in a situation where I need to assert myself or a meeting or even, on a romantic date with someone, can I be present and embodied and not distort? So it's about presence and it's about presence without distortion. Okay, and we're going to talk about the five ways we distort power in just a second. So the first way, if we get into it now, is what we call the power-avoidant man. And this is someone who grew up typically with power-abusive role models, people who use power as power over, dominance, force, control. Like their power was the power to be listened to, and yours wasn't acknowledged or encouraged. Okay, so this man will associate power with harm, control, or shame. And as a result, they'll collapse to avoid becoming like those people. So a lot of guys are like, I don't want to be like my dad or like that role model was, so I'm going to be like this. But the problem is we lose presence when we do that. We throw the baby out with the bathwater. And, a disclaimer here, or, a bit extra, men have been harmful in history. If we look back through the last 6,000 years, abuse of power, rape, burning, pillaging, stealing, taking things by force, this has happened, So as men, we have to own that. That is a, if that power nature isn't guided with our heart, it can be abusive. But to the power avoidant men, to create healing, I say that power is not what hurt you. Okay. The distortion of power is what hurt you. And so we're inviting you to reclaim your power, not the shadow expression that you were shown. Okay. So that's the power avoidant man. The next type is the power abusive man. So it kind of goes the other way. So this guy uses force to mask his own incoherence. When he doesn't feel powerful or doesn't feel capable or grounded or centered or in control, he'll use force to make something happen. So they will mistakenly believe that domination equals presence. So he controls others because he can't control himself or he can't find his own center amidst all the external and internal pressure. So to those men, I say, real power does not need to dominate. Real power needs nothing. It asks for nothing of others, actually. Real power entrains others. It harmonizes others. Your presence magnetically changes what's going on around you. And we all know people like this, thankfully, and they're amazing individuals. So if your breath cannot harmonize, can't entrain, can't magnetize, it's not power. It's distortion. Okay. The third type is the power-seeking man. So he wants power but fears it. Okay. So he feels the call of his own power. He feels the call of his own authority, but he doubts his worthiness. Okay. So it leads him to kind of go back and forth between collapsing and trying to inflate himself. Okay. And to those men, I say, your fear of power is not fear of harm. And what I mean by that is it's not that you fear being harmful. You fear your own coherence, meaning because once you become coherent, you know you can no longer pretend to be small. So it's our greatness that the power-seeking man is really afraid of, not being harmful, right? Whereas the power-avoidant man was different. Then we have the power-disguised man. So he might appear humble or spiritual or passive, like he's above it all. And this man will use that softness, that aloofness as a shield against accountability. It's like what I like to call a wriggly fish. You can't pin him down or hold him to anything. It's like there's no spine or backbone. There's no grit in his beingness that says, I stand for this. So he will avoid directness under the guise of non-violence or spiritual bypassing. So to those men, I say true power does not hide behind softness. It stands in stillness, actually, without needing to be liked. It's like a lion doesn't need to roar. Like when you see a lion, they're often relaxed and at play because everyone knows don't mess with it. It doesn't need to roar to let you know how powerful it is. It owns it in its being and its presence. But that means we have to commit to being here and being embodied and being present with ourselves. You can't be aloof and do that. And then we have the last one is what I call the power fragmented man. So he has moments of brilliance, but he can't sustain what we call the coherence. He can't sustain the power. So they swing between clarity and collapse, often feeling overwhelmed. So, a lot of people in the creative industry, and not meaning to overgeneralize, but just to give an example, can do that. They have moments of clarity and brilliance, but then they can collapse. So to those men, we say that your power is not in your peaks, it's in your ability to generate power and presence without breaking. So it's about sustainability, actually. I think it's Stephen King, he said, one of the most prolific authors, I don't write until I feel inspired. And thankfully, inspiration shows up every morning at 9 o'clock when I sit down to write. So he's conditioned himself to experience that raising of his power, and we can all do that. So if we summarize how we breathe when we're in these five different types. So the power avoidant has shallow breath. He doesn't let literally the fullness of his breath and his power move through his physiology. The power abusive man, his breath is forced. And it's just too much. It's just an overexertion rather than just exertion. Power seeking is unstable. Okay, his breath isn't rhythmic, it isn't centered. The power disguise man, his breath is diffuse. Okay, so it's like he's not present, he's not grounded, he's not there. You kind of want to try and grab him, but you can't get hold of him. And the power fragmented man is erratic. So sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, sometimes it's deep, sometimes it's shallow. It's not, it hasn't found a consistent, coherent rhythm. And when they do, they find consistent, coherent power. So these aren't labels, this is just reflections. And we tell you this because your breathing will tell you which archetype of male power you're in. So if your breath is shallow, hey, I'm missing power. If it's forced, I'm being a bit over the top, a bit abusive, a bit dominating. If it's unstable, I'm unsure. If it's too diffuse, like if I actually can't feel it and be aware of it moving through me, I'm power disguised, I'm not present. And if it's fragmented, like there sometimes and not sometimes, I haven't found a coherent and regular way to access my power. So some things to journal, think about are what does power feel like in my breath, right? If you think about a time when you've been powerful, what was your breath like? Because our breath is unique. Every single body, the same way we have a unique thumbprint, we have a unique breath print. And we have a unique way of breathing and moving our physiology. So think about when you were powerful, when you achieved something and you did it in a coherent way, like you weren't abusive of other people and people weren't abusive to you. You were just kind of neutral and contained. If you've ever had an experience like that, what did your breath feel like? Or when you imagine being like that, what's your breath like? Okay. And then have a think about maybe what is coherent. When I'm coherent, how does my presence change? Like if I'm just here, like, and this is me being present with you, not trying to perform for you, but just I'm present with you. What's that feel like? What's that feel like for you, right? You might want to think about what part of you is stabilizing when you speak. Okay, so these are some things you can have a think about. So we want you to remember that Power is the ability to remain centered and coherent in the presence of contraction. What we mean by that is other people's thoughts and opinions or your own self-doubts. Okay. Whenever those two things are arising, we want you to be able to stay in center because they're going to happen. Like other people are going to question us and we might question ourselves. So the job is to not focus on power, but to focus on being centered and coherent. Because when you are, power is a natural byproduct. If power isn't a natural byproduct, then you know you're off center. So your job is to get into center, which is what we're going to talk about now. So how we embody breath is how we embody power. Okay, so we're going to give you a little breath exercise you can do here. This is the tip of the iceberg. There are way, way, way deeper, more profound ones we can share, if you come on our coaching course. But for now, this is going to be super helpful. Okay, so just remember, if your breath is shallow, your power is weak. If your breath is forced, it's your power is going to be a source of distortion. If it's coherent, then your power will entrain, magnetize, harmonize those around you. You'll become the thing that organizes what goes on around you. People will seek you out as a point of stability and wisdom and influence. Okay. And it doesn't take any effort. This is the paradoxical thing, is it takes centering. So the breath pattern we recommend is to sit quietly, and you're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and breathe out for 8. And we want you to do this until you no longer squirm when you think of power. Okay? Because we all want power, but we have associations with it, like only if I'm not harmful, or, I want it, but what are other people going to think of me if I'm powerful? Or I want to be powerful, but how am I, like, I don't know how that's going to influence the dynamics I'm in, right? So we want you to do this until you can think about power. Like I'm talking, when I say power, there's no contraction in me. It's just power. It's like love. It's like money. It's like sex. It's like breathing. It's like air. It's like coffee. It's like chocolate. It's just a natural part of life, or, an enjoyable part of life, if nothing else. So in for 4, hold for 4, out for 8. Okay. And you're going to do that until you feel relaxed about power. So remember, in closing, you're not here to take power from anyone else, and other people should not be taking power from you. Okay. We want you to remember that you are your own power. And when your breath is coherent in your body, the world will naturally listen to you because they'll sense you're powerful and you're coherent and you're organized and you're influencing and you're inspirational. So thank you for joining me. So now that you know these archetypes of power, you might want to learn. There's a couple more videos. In fact, you know what? Now that you know it, share it with people who need to hear this, because there's so many guys right now who are hearing messages about toxic masculinity, or they haven't got clear, role models about masculinity, and they don't know that it's okay to be powerful. So a couple of other videos you might want to watch are, there's one about navigating the masculinity crisis, where I talk about this in a bit more depth. And there's one about how to appear powerful in any room. There's some breath-based exercises and some postural things. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I really look forward to seeing you in more to come. Bye for now.